Scuttlebutt, I heard is Crocodile called citizens foolish peasants, and they didn't suspect he was a Bond villain?
To be fair, I call people foolish peasants, and that's just because I have no social skills.
It's season 4 of King of the What Now. Before the world government, we ain't gonna bow. We're gonna rescue Rob and unite the crew. We're not gonna stop till our mission is through. Spanum's a dick, yeah, you know it's true. We wanna punch his face till he's black and blue. These government agents think they're justice, but regarding their tactics, I'm rather disgusted. The Straw Hats are pumped up and fists are flying. There's a hairy kaiju and lightning striking. Hearts burning hot in passionate flames. With phantom blades the giraffe is slain. Luffy is dashing, his skin's all red. Don't get in the way or you'll end up dead. The Straw Hats, yeah, they're on the attack. So now Soga King, burn down that flag!
Hello, fellow adventurers of the Grand Line and escapees of the Navy headquarters. Welcome to episode 87 of King of the What Now, your one source for Nami X Sanji X Cheesecake Thick. The cheesecake looked especially tasty, especially the way that the light gleamed off of its custardy gleam. Okay.
Sanji had even drizzled a special tangerine sauce that dripped down its edges with an almost erotic sheen.
Okay, you are getting a little bit too explicit here. As far as I know, our listenership is anywhere between the ages of 1 and 309. Okay,
all I said was the word erotic, and it was in the context of cheesecake. That's hardly, but no, I really like cheesecake.
Okay, fair enough. As always, I'm your host, Joel, and today I forgot that we do this. I'm too weak to move, so Kat's actually propping me up to use my body to deflect cannon fire.
Yeah, we're gonna weekend at Joel's this thing. I'm Kat, and I'm the co-host of the show right now, and also I am a boat that wanted to carry my people a little bit further, but I guess I failed. That's why they had to light me on fire.
All right, so I thought that we were going to maybe treat that moment with some reverence, but I guess not.
I'm sorry, everything becomes a joke to me, and my emotional growth was stunted by snarky cartoons.
You know what? I think that you are not alone in that. Okay, so let's get into chatting with the hosts. And so I was wondering if people liked this segment or not. Two of my favorite podcasts to listen to, The Weekly Planet and The Blade Looking Thieves, they have segments where they kind of talk about, you know, what they're watching or reading or that sort of thing, what they're excited about. So I thought people might like that. But there are also probably people who are like, you're a One Piece podcast, give us information about pirates and talk about Luffy and stuff. So I put up a poll that had 4 options. I love it. I'm neutral, I hate it, and then the 4th joke option was like, what are you talking about, in case someone follows me for something else without knowing about the podcast. And it was a 3-way tie between love it and neutral and hate it last time I checked, so that doesn't really give me any kind of information as to what to do.
You know what that sounds like to me?
Death battle?
Only 1 out of 3 people hated it.
That's true.
Which I think means we continue unless we get more feedback that says hate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, potentially maybe we could do some kind of like weekly episode where we just talk about what we've been playing, writing, reading, drawing, that sort of thing, and have it be like a non-canon episode of the podcast. We could also move it to the end of the episode, or we could just try to be a little bit shorter in our thing. So I think that's what I would like to do going forward, is maybe you and I pick one really meaningful thing that we really like in order to suggest it to our fans, in case, you know, if they like what we think about One Piece, maybe they'll like what we think about this other show. So, yeah. And Catherine, what do you have to talk about?
I just started Haikyuu, which I've heard a lot of really amazing things about on Twitter. I think everyone I follow reads or watches this, and they just, every week, they hype up the new chapter, and they're like, this is the most amazing chapter I've ever read. So I figured it's on Netflix, I'll give it a shot. I instantly was enamored with the main characters. They have so much drive and determination, which is exactly what I wanted out of a sports anime. I wanted to sit down and watch something that was going to make me go, I have goals. I'm going to achieve my goals. And this is fulfilling all of those metrics.
Now, what was it that you said when I brought up that I had watched The Magicians? I claim no ownership in the enjoyment of this product or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
I personally do not see the appeal yet. And I mean, if you like it, you like it. I'm not putting anyone down. I'm just saying that if you weren't watching it, I don't think I would have gotten past episode 2. I would have said, like, okay, where's the hook? Because to me, it's just people who are excited about volleyball, but, like, that's kind of it. And I really like superpowers and transformations and magic wands and stuff. And I don't think that the show ever really gets to that point.
No, it doesn't. And I think that slice of life anime is not for everyone, even when they do the sports thing where they're like, he has a superpower, but actually it's just a regular thing that real life athletes do. But I'm enjoying it. And so if you are also enjoying Haikyuu, then hit me up on Twitter and tell me your other favorite sports animes, because I want to watch more of this genre.
And if you're listening to this, here's my call of action to you. Reach out to me, Joel, and let me know at what point is the Arlong Park of Haikyuu? Is there a specific arc or a specific character that made you go, okay, this was good, but now I love it? Or does everyone fall in love with it from the very first panel and, like, that's just epicness? Because, you know, if there's something amazing that happens in episode, I don't know, 15 or something, maybe I'll continue watching it. But as it is now, maybe I'll turn it on if I need something in the background, but it's not a show that I would rank as my favorite.
Now on to something you've been watching that I would not watch.
Yeah, so I've gone on record before talking about fan service and how much I really hate it. And I've seen people talk about, like, well, you're just not in the age group to enjoy it. And it's like, well, yeah, just because 15-year-olds do enjoy, you know, boobs or whatever doesn't mean that every show for them has to feature it predominantly, right? But No Game, No Life is a show that another weeb friend of ours really, really likes. And it was on Netflix, and I just wanted something on that was in English audio that I could just kind of listen to without watching. And it was pretty good. It was much better than I thought it would be, because my favorite power fantasy is the hero that is super smart and knows everything from the very beginning. And the main characters, because there's 2 of them, they are that. You know, it's Sora and Shiro, and they are just, everything in this world is based off of games, and it's all about, you know, you'd think, oh, it's whoever is better at the game, but it's really who's better at cheating at the game without getting caught. And there are fan service moments that make me go, ugh, I can't recommend this to anyone, but there's moments where it's legitimately pretty cool how they manage to find ways to outsmart their opponent or do this or that or the other thing. And I'd have to say that my favorite character is the Flugel, whose name completely escapes me because I binged this in like 2 days, but she's amazing. I love her. Like, oh, did you just use a magic that transformed the opponent into ooze? That's so fascinating. Interesting. And so that's a thing that I'd recommend, but with a little asterisk, it's not for everyone for that same reason.
For me, I really couldn't get past how weird the relationship between the main character and his sister was.
Yeah.
And, like, it's valid if you enjoy this show and if you can look past that, because it never gets explicit enough for me to go, that's, like, illegal, but it's close enough to the line that it's just not for me.
Yeah, and well, and it does self-referential humor, so it seems to be making fun of shows that have that kind of relationship between the brother and sister and the we're not adopted, but they also lean into it too much for it to actually feel like parody to me. I'm sure that, really hardcore fans would say, like, well, no, they clearly don't, they clearly have a problem with it because they made fun of it. Yeah, but they kind of have their cake and eat it too in this case.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is one other show that I want to talk about that's not on our little list here, and that is The Overly Cautious Hero. Now, if you watch a lot of anime, you probably know about the Isekai genre that's trapped in another world, Sword Art Online. Digimon technically counts, I think, but it was before Isekai was kind of recognized as its own genre. There's just a lot of different series that dive into it. But this one is about a character who is summoned from Earth, and he's told that he needs to fight the Demon Lord, and he goes, well, I can't fight the Demon Lord, I'm not strong enough yet. So he does push-ups until he feels sufficiently prepared, and then it's a comedy that plays off of the isekai tropes. I've seen Konosuba. I liked it okay, but this one made me laugh out loud on several occasions. It also has a scene, or a specific episode that's very fanservice-y and very like, oh, she said that she got penetrated and she got hit by an arrow, but like, oh, isn't it funny the way we use the word penetrate in so sexual a tone? And skip that episode, but the rest of it is very good.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. Again, the fan service was a little bit much, but not. It was not as close to the line of being uncomfortable for me as some shows were. They did have one character who was like explicitly bisexual, and her thing was that she was super predatory toward the hot main goddess.
Yeah.
And so like things like that are a problem. But the humor was great. The ending was more emotional than I thought it would be. And so, yeah, I mean, if you like the genre, give it a try. If you're not into isekai, it probably won't do a lot for you.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'd love to actually find someone who has hated almost all isekai just to give, like, the first 2 episodes a watch just to see what they think. Because I'd be interested to see if you're right that they wouldn't get very much mileage out of it. But the first 2 episodes are free on Funimation. The rest of them you have to subscribe, which is unfortunate. Everything requires a streaming service these days, but, you know, that will give you a good feel for whether or not you like the humor or not. But I will say that the humor gets better as you go on and get to know the characters, which I think is true for all comedies. But I think that wraps up chatting with the host. And if you have more detailed feedback other than a Twitter poll that limits it to 25 characters per option, you know, feel free to reach out to us. We got the Gmail and we've got the Twitter, and you can DM us, you know, whatever works.
I'm on Twitter almost constantly, so if you message me, I will see it.
Okay, and let's get back to our main episode. So we just finished watching 3 episodes of the anime. Just pulling up that list now, 310 through 312, and we also watched the 8th One Piece movie. So, Catherine, where would you like to start on this particular?
I mean, I think we can go through the movie super fast.
Okay, interesting, because most of my discussion questions came from those episodes, more so than the escape from Enies Lobby, but, super succinct summary, I forgot that that's a thing that we do. Luffy has lost all of his strength. He can't even get up in order to escape the island. The escape ship that Nami was going to have them all board has been destroyed in the Buster Call. Everything looks bad, but Usopp reminds them that they have one more friend. They all jump to the sea. Robin uses her hand powers to pick up Luffy and throw him overboard.
She just yeets him off the...
And they land on what else but the Mary. And as they're sailing away, all of the big ships are having trouble navigating because... that's strange. The gates of justice have been closed, which caused some disruptions to the currents. That was what Sanji was up to when he disappeared a couple of episodes ago. They manage to escape. Mary starts to break apart. Iceberg shows up. He explains that he, set sail as soon as he realized that they would need some help. And he found them, and he rescues them from the Mary. And he tells them that nothing can be done. Like, Mary is in such bad shape that this is its last voyage, but in a touching message, Mary tells them that she was thankful for being able to travel with them, and she wished that she could travel with them some more. They give her a Viking funeral. It's very emotional. Unless you're Catherine, then you just laugh mercilessly at it.
I had an emotion.
A single emotion, okay.
I had at least one. No, like, the first time I watched this, it didn't affect me very hard, and I don't know if it's because my slimes were in a different place this time or what, but I did get...
To be clear, Catherine refers to her mental status as brain slimes. It's from a post on Tumblr, so if you haven't seen that post, you're now caught up.
Thanks, babe. But anyway, it did make me tear up a little bit this time, so I'm not entirely flippant.
Yeah. And as I've said before, sometimes I don't get as emotional for scenes that I know should be emotional, but I can analyze and be like, I should be feeling more about this, but I don't. But I do think that this is a really well done scene, even if that's not really my favorite type of scene to watch. And Polly and the Giants and...
all the boys and gals.
Yeah, all of them survived through miracle and happenstance.
Polly made some ropes.
Yes,
ropes him to a side of a cliff. And then... we watched movie 8, which was just Alabasta Redux.
It was Alabasta Redux, but they had a flashback to Saul, Jaguar D. Saul, the giant who saved Robin, who wasn't in the original anime because he hadn't been written yet. So, Yeah, better graphics, but same story. Yeah, no story beats.
I would say ultimately, if I were a person who wanted to get into One Piece and someone was like, oh, here, they made this movie of the arc, so you don't have to watch the whole arc. I don't think the movie hits nearly the same way as the actual arc does.
Certainly.
And so I wouldn't personally make that recommendation. I felt like it skipped over a lot of important things, and it was mostly just, here's a bad guy, there's Crocodile, we've beat Crocodile, the end.
Yeah, I've heard that about the summary movies and specials, because they did one for, like, the East Blue. They did an episode of Luffy, I think, at one point. They've done a couple of those. I haven't seen any of them yet. Once we started the podcast, I knew I would watch them, but I'm going to watch them when the podcast gets to them. But I've heard that, One Piece's story is one that spans a very long time. There's a lot of growth and conflict and interactions and such, and I just don't know if you can condense that down into a single movie. Maybe like a mini-series like The 10th Kingdom would do it, but that's kind of what the show already is, so...
Oda does such a good job at building tension over a long period of time, like you said, that I feel like it almost takes away from what his work does to
Certainly.
Condense it down like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they don't even add jokes like the abridged folks do on YouTube. So, I would say give the movie a watch if you really want to, have, all of the moments of Alabasta kind of condensed into your brain, but... the series did it better in manga and anime form. Okay, so you wanted to talk about movie 8. So you said overall, you wouldn't say that it's a good introduction, but as someone who has lived through Alabasta, experienced it, did seeing, Vivi and Crocodile and Pell, did that get your serotonin levels back up?
A little, yeah.
Okay.
I feel like we got more backstory for Pell, not exactly backstory, but we got more flashback scenes of him flying around with Vivi when she was a child, and that was adorable.
Certainly.
I really liked that emotional through line of what does it mean to protect people, and why do you fight if you don't want to hurt people? And I mean, seeing Crocodile is always a delight.
Yeah, he's pretty great.
I was frustrated because I felt like I can't remember what the name of them is, but Karu's family.
Oh yeah, the Super Squad,
the Duck Force
Squadron, yeah.
DuckTales, woo! Anyway, I felt like they came out of nowhere because the movie was just sort of here are some ducks.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I heard a complaint, or you saw a comment, I think, when we were looking for this movie, that wow, look at how giant the breasts are on Vivi and Nami. Personally, I didn't notice that. There was the one scene where the crab likes dancers, which is just a bad scene overall. But, I don't think they really changed the character models.
No, there was really just the one instance of gratuitous jiggling. It wasn't as bad as that one movie. Was that?
I think that was the 7th movie. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say I wasn't sure if it was the one with the festival and the weird horror, or if it was the one after that. But I think it was the one after that. But anyway, no, gratuitous jiggling, there was not. There was just, a typical amount of jiggling.
Yeah, I mean, no real comment. I think maybe the comment had come from a different movie, because partially, I will admit, I was kind of I was on the Switch at the same time as the movie was playing, but it didn't seem that much different from the actual episodes that we saw. I do think that the relationship between her and Koza works better with all the flashbacks that you get in the main series. In this one, you get the sense that they're friends, but it's not as strong and that sort of thing. And, the other thing, too, that I noticed is there's that scene where, near the very end of the battle, where Crocodile goes, "Do you even know who I am?" And then Luffy kicks him into the air and he uses Gum Gum Storm to finish the battle. The way I've always heard that line, or I guess read that line, because I have usually, if I, want to rewatch it, I watch it subbed. But Luffy's response is, "I don't care who you are, I will surpass you." But I believe that in this one, it was something like, "I don't care who you are, I will defeat you." And I meant to go back and see if that was the audio that they used in the original episodes as well. But in the One Piece world, there's a difference between defeating someone and surpassing someone. Crocodile is one of the 7 warlords of the sea, one of these pirates honored by the government or perceived as upper echelon. So to surpass someone like that means that you're going to be even more infamous, whereas to defeat them means that you punched them really hard. So I was disappointed by that translation, and I'm not sure if that was a translation for this movie or I just am so used to the Japanese audio.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to go back and look at that, or someone can hit us up on Twitter if they know from memory. I think that's interesting, the difference between surpass and defeat. Was it exclamation point who had the series on how translating something changes the meaning of it and can make things more or less impactful?
He's a great YouTuber. I will link him in the description of the episode. But he did an entire 2-part episode about the difference between Bakugo and Deku in the subs and the dubs and how their relationship is different. And he also did an entire thesis in college about the difference in Elsa's portrayal in the English Frozen and the French Frozen.
Like, she was a completely different character. So we won't get into his video. Like Joel said, we'll link it. But the power of words and how it changes your understanding of a character or of their interactions with the world around them is very interesting, and I would love to study it more. And I think that's what's missing from a lot of the subs versus dubs debate, because it's not which one is better, it's which one gives you an understanding of the character that makes the story feel more complete for you.
Certainly. Well, and I've also heard the argument that even if you watch it with English subtitles, if you can't speak Japanese, you're still getting it through a filter. So there's still even some nuance there that would be hard for most translators to be able to portray. So it's an interesting discussion. I think overall the themes of One Piece are pretty clear, but I just think that there's occasional places, especially with very memorable pieces of dialogue, where I will recognize if maybe they changed it slightly.
Absolutely.
Okay. Here's a discussion question that I came up with while we were watching this. So, Bon Clay, Mr. 2, he transforms into Luffy, and he transforms into Nami, and he shows off that apparently he's anatomically a woman now. He transforms into Chopper, and he actually becomes shorter. So in One Piece, you have people with like all sorts of weird body types, and we have giants and fishmen. Can Bon Clay turn into a fishman or a giant?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
With the caveat that he has to have trained for it.
Okay.
I think that it puts his body under stress to transform into things that are differently shaped than he normally is.
Get ready for our favorite reference joke. Devil fruit powers are physical too.
Ha! Yes, they are though. And so I think that it would take a lot out of him to turn into something so much bigger than himself.
Very interesting. I also wonder how quickly the transformation would happen. Like, would it be instantaneous, or would he grow at a particular rate over like a period of a minute or something? But yeah, I don't know. It just seems like in a world where people are obsessed with military power, you have like Don Krieg and Crocodile and Eneru, he had his magic ship or whatever, you'd think that the ability to turn into a giant, who we've specifically seen in this Enies Lobby arc, are put on a pedestal for their strength or whatever. I just think that there would be a useful technique for him to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
If he comes back again, maybe we'll see it.
If you could give one of the Straw Hats his devil fruit power, who would you give it to?
Or Robin. Robin because, or Usopp. Usopp would be great at it too. Robin has already done spy type stuff, and we've seen in the G8, and it was filler, but we saw her, impersonate someone and use that to her advantage. So I think she would be very well suited to shapeshifting. Nami is the rogue of the D&D team, and so she'd be able to use it to great effect. And then Usopp is also a trickster. So
he's the liar. I love the idea of Usopp getting it. I think he could use it to great effect. I also like the idea, just comedy-wise, of giving it to Sanji.
Okay.
I think, because he's just such a doofus, I think he'd turn into Nami and then be like, wee!
Yeah, see, I think you could run into some problematic areas with that. I've said this before, I will say it forever, Sanji's my favorite character when he's written well, and giving him the ability to transform into a woman would very quickly be abused unless he went through some character growth, which I would argue the One Piece story is not really about the characters growing in that sense.
Yeah, well, and neither of us are really the right people to speak on this issue, but I know people have been critical in the past of how Oda handles gender in general. Mm-hmm. And so I think that if he had one of his male characters able to transform into female characters, I think you would run into a lot of those problems.
I do think that you could find a way out of it, though. And I mean, we don't want Sanji to get the clone fruit because we like Bon Clay due to his, his shift in personality and the fact that he believes in friendship and he sacrifices himself for the Straw Hats. But you could also have it be Sanji has a rule where he won't impersonate a woman. That would be kind of interesting, and it would kind of fit into his chivalry, and it would put limitations on him. So in the future, if they're fighting, the Red Squirrel pirates and 3 of their highest executives or fighters are women, now you're in a situation where Sanji can't impersonate them in order to do his tricky stuff behind the scenes.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I will say the only reason I think it would be funny for Sanji to have that fruit is because it's less creepy for him to do his doofus thing about women if he's doing it to himself.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, sure.
Because he's not, actively harassing Nami at that point, unless he does it in front of her, which would be weird.
Yeah, that would be...
Nami, look, I'm you and I'm naked. No thanks.
God, could you imagine if you could turn into me and I was just mid-sentence and then you started talking and the people who were listening to the podcast couldn't tell? Oh, you would use that to mess with me so much.
It's funny, though, because in college, we often sent messages to our friends from one another's accounts, just because... you had my phone or whatever, and we had friends who legitimately couldn't tell us apart.
Yeah. I mean, in text, they couldn't tell us apart, and yeah.
But if I had your voice, that's some interesting...
It takes it to the next level.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think that Oda will ever give a character on the Straw Hats who doesn't currently have a devil fruit powers? Or do you think they
believe so. I think that the characters are relatively static. I don't think they're going to get a devil fruit as a power-up. They'll learn to set themselves on fire or summon phantom limbs, but they will not gain the, the power to turn into lightning or shift into a beaver or something like that.
Perfect. Oh, did you have any other big thoughts about movie 8?
Yeah, so here's another question that we can revisit now that we've gotten a little further into the series. So they did the whole Pell sacrifice thing where he takes the bomb up into the sky in order to save everyone. And I get it as an emotional through line between him and Vivi, but then he immediately comes back. So I'm just going to have to keep revisiting this because, to this day, even if you read all the manga, there's no answer. Narratively, what was the point in having him sacrifice himself but bringing him back? Was it essentially to say that, sometimes sacrifice is necessary to evoke change, but we like Pell, so he gets to survive?
Yeah, if there was a reason for it beyond, I just didn't want to kill this character off right now, which I think is the actual reason. I would say it's to show that Vivi's optimism was somewhat founded, right? Luffy accuses her of wanting to solve this conflict without anyone getting hurt or dying, and he punches her in the face over it because, that's ridiculous, Vivi. People are going to get hurt. This is a serious conflict with a serious opponent. And so when Pell takes this bomb up into the sky and we think that he's dead, that is a moment of, wow, someone did have to get hurt. There was no way we could have solved this bomb issue without Pell's sacrifice. But then he comes back when the country is back to a state of normalcy and Crocodile is no longer in charge, and it's okay, we can sometimes hope that people won't be hurt.
Okay, I see.
But we have to be willing to be hurt.
He symbolically killed himself, but he didn't literally... Actually, that was his spirit that took the bomb into the air.
His stand.
And that's why, exactly.
Only a stand can hurt a stand, so a stand could fly a bomb in the air and not get injured by it. Is that how it works with that?
I think so, maybe.
Araki, hit me up.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And now, one last question. So Crocodile, he and Luffy fight each other, and Luffy just throws Vivi. I gotta say, I really like the way that was animated. I think they took that up a notch. It seemed like it was slightly different, and she rockets into the sky towards the crab, and I love that. But... they fight. Crocodile thinks he's killed Luffy. He goes back to Alabasta and he tells his Baroque Works agents, Mr. 4 through Mr. 1 and their partners, I killed Straw Hat Luffy. And so while they're fighting, they mention I think it's Usopp's battle, they do the whole yeah, he died, you idiot. He lost a crocodile. Now, Usopp kind of believes it for a second, but he keeps trying to tell himself that he doesn't believe it, but it's obvious that he's a little bent out of shape by it. And Sanji doesn't seem to believe it at all. So let me ask you, who's the most likely in a situation like that where Luffy's been gone for some time and a villain shows up and is I killed him? Who's the most likely to believe that Luffy's dead?
Maybe Nami.
Okay.
maybe Robin, because she seems pretty practical.
Yeah.
But I can't see anyone else buying it. Zoro would be like, no, my captain's too strong. You're full of shit.
Yeah.
Sanji would be like, no, Luffy's always come back. Chopper and Usopp are both like, we believe in Luffy. So I honestly can't see any of them believing it. And like, seriously. And even Robin, I think that would be pre them saving her from Enies Lobby. After that, I think she's Team Luffy all the way.
This man can do the impossible, right? Defeating Crocodile, like, yeah, that's impressive, but there's way harder things out there. But defying a Buster Call and saving someone from Enies Lobby, okay, I totally get that.
Yeah, he literally defeated her childhood nightmare. Like, this man is immortal to her, basically.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I'd say that maybe, because Chopper is the most naive and the most childlike, I would say, out of the group, and so I would say that he probably has a high amount of belief in Luffy, an almost, impossible childlike version. We always talk about children are innocent, and then it's when you grow up that you become cynical. But at the same time, that also, I think, makes him more susceptible to lies.
I think maybe what would happen, how Oda would play it, is Chopper would get all upset, and he'd be like, Luffy's dead, and then Usopp would be like, don't be an idiot, our captain could never die.
Yeah, I could see Zoro filling that role too, especially because he's the big brother to Chopper's little brother. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways, just wanted to pause that, wanted to take that question and put it on a paper airplane and throw it across the classroom and hit you in the head with it.
You know, it's interesting because I do have this paper airplane that you threw that hit me in the head.
Yeah.
But all it says is, do you like me? Check yes or no.
But I didn't put a no check box.
You didn't put a no box.
That's how you win, my fellow otaku. Don't actually do that. That's weird. This is obviously a bit.
We're married, so it's cool for us to do these bits. But don't do it with women you're not married to. This is getting out of hand. You know what I liked?
Welcome to King of the What Now dating advice. What did you like, my darling?
I really liked when Usopp told Luffy, I'll carry you the rest of the way.
Yeah, there was a moment before it was revealed that Luffy couldn't move, where Usopp was like, come on, we just stretch over here, we're ready to go, we need you, and Luffy was like, I can, and Usopp's like, come on, if you're out of strength, I'll carry you, and so good. And supposedly they're still fighting, and we're probably going to get a resolution of that for the next set of episodes we watch, but for now, it seems that in the moment that argument has completely just been forgotten.
Well, and throughout this whole arc, there have been notes of they're upset with each other and they're trying to pretend that that's all there is, but they can't escape the bond that they've built. Like, they still care about one another. Usopp lost his Sogeking mask when he realized Luffy was in danger. And Luffy, as soon as he heard Usopp's voice and he was like, Usopp is here, he was like inspired to fight harder. So they have a beautiful bond, and I am excited to get to discuss the resolution of their conflict.
Absolutely. And then here's another quick note. Frankie actually was the one who catches Robin after Kokoro throws her, Luffy, and Chopper on the ship. So, hooray, more Robin fodder.
You know, I was actually, before we started the podcast and started going back through it, I was kind of a low-key Robin shipper. Like, I liked the ship, but I wasn't, super gung-ho about it. But no, I'm 100% Team Robin now, and I won't hear any argument to the contrary.
It's just so sad that, we're coming up to the part where they go back to Water 7, which is Frankie's home. So that's, long-distance relationship. That's how Nami and Vivi are obviously having their correspondence. And I assume that Usopp writes letters to Kaya or is, journaling it all in, a picture book that he'll give to her or something.
We have seen a clip of Kaya reading a letter that Usopp sent.
Oh, have we?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because there was a scene where it flashed to all of the people that they've impacted.
I think that might have been the newspaper, though. I think it might have been Luffy punched this guy.
No, shut up. It's a letter that Usopp wrote her.
Absolutely. Cute. Yeah, 100%.
Anyway.
Usopp controls the media. He understands that once you control the media, you can influence the world.
Usopp news. Yes.
What's that? The Marines defeated Crocodile? That's fake news, my friends. Don't let the Marines lie to you.
But no, you raise a really interesting point. So Frankie is going to go home, but the Straw Hats leave their mark on everyone that they touch. So how have they left a mark on Frankie? Is he going to set sail? Is Iceberg too injured to continue being the mayor of Water 7? Is Frankie going to step into that role? What do you think?
See, characters change in One Piece, but I don't know if someone like Frankie, who's that flamboyant and flashy and destructive, honestly, could do well in like a politician's position. I don't think he would be well suited to the title of mayor, but maybe he and Polly could team up and they could run it together, or he could be Polly's understudy. Maybe he'll be the secretary that replaces Khalifa now that she's gone.
I love the idea of Frankie yelling about sexual harassment. I know that's not inherent to being a secretary,
but it's Khalifa's version of a secretary for sure.
Here's something about Frankie that just occurred to me. So he was raised by a shipwright.
Yes.
He was really into building his warships, and then Tom died, and he took the blame for that on himself because it was his warships that led to the government arresting Tom. He's been running a demolition business. He isn't creating things anymore. He's tearing things apart. What if this is the catalyst he needed to finally forgive himself and be able to create things again?
Oh my god. So he creates a giant cannon and gives it to Soga King, making him even more powerful than before.
That's so cool, yeah. Yeah,
the Soga King mech.
The Soga cannon.
Yeah.
Or he creates a suit of armor for Robin, her own personal little warship.
Oh my gosh, that would be so great. Yeah, let's see those bastards try to take you again. It's interesting because I can't, if I analyze what I know about Kokoro's character and about Frankie's character and about Tom and Luffy and the interactions on Enies Lobby, I don't know if Luffy has necessarily helped them pass that trauma. It feels like maybe if there was any lesson to take from this, it's, I don't know, Luffy cares about his friends, but there's nothing inherent to this story about why weapons are good or bad. The fact that the government wanted to use Pluton to take over the world or whatever proves that, building super weapons is in some sense irresponsible because the government will want it. So I'm not sure, I imagine that he and his family will work to become even stronger. Maybe they will work with Galley Law and they'll form like a super unit or something, like a super company, just based off the fact that now they've fought together. Maybe the Giants will stay there and they'll also be giant demolition and shipbuilders. So I think Water 7 as a whole is going to improve, but I don't know necessarily what impact Luffy had on Frankie and Kokoro, that family unit.
Yeah, let's talk about the Frankie family for a second,
yes,
and about the Galley Law shipwrights. So they died, but then just kidding, they aren't dead.
Yeah.
We just talked about what could the narrative reason be for bringing Pell back. Why do you think Oda chose to do this trick again, but with a larger group of people? What was the point of that?
I think, so the idea that I had for this one specifically is actually, my thoughts are more focused than back for Pell, because in this case you have the Buster Call, which is a symbol of the world's government. You can't see people on a map, or destroying an entire island to get rid of like a spot of evil or that sort of thing. And it just showed how cruel and merciless this system is. And I think we're starting to get the picture that Luffy's main goal is just kind of travel around, but it seems like there's a force that is preventing people from being free, and so maybe they'll get in Luffy's way, and Luffy punches anything that gets in his way. So I think killing them and having the loudspeakers be like, we just killed 60 people and 2 giants or whatever, I think that was to communicate to the Straw Hats that this Buster Call business is serious. People could die, people that you care about, and it doesn't care about any individuals. Having them come back is because it's a shonen anime and you're not supposed to let people die.
Well, to build off of what you were saying, I think that from a writing standpoint, yes, we were shown the government is evil. The government doesn't care about individual lives. It's just numbers on a map to them. So to have these people survive is kind of the ultimate act of defiance.
Yeah.
They refuse to die when they were supposed to because they are willing to fight back against the government for what they believe in. And I think more broadly, it showed us more of Frankie's character. He was sad that his family was dead, but he continued to fight on, and he was like, I'm throwing myself behind the Straw Hats. They can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the Polly and them surviving didn't really have anything to do with Luffy or Nami's or Usopp's influence. It wasn't like Usopp gave them a speech back in Water 7, like, yeah, you have to keep fighting even when things look hopeless, and Polly had that flashback right before the cannons fired. If it was something like that, I would say, okay, maybe in some way it's all connected and Frankie could see Luffy as the one who saved his family, and Water 7 could be indebted to Luffy and that sort of thing. But because it was through their own ingenuity, I have to take it as maybe it's representation of the humans as ants, I guess, where like the world government is this big boot and it can crush you at any time, but if you're tenacious and you keep working at it, you will find a way to survive and you'll just keep on living.
Especially if you're good with ropes.
Yeah, I mean, ropes is just a valuable asset.
I think we mentioned in the succinct summary very briefly, but just in case you missed it, the way that they survived was Polly wove together a bunch of his ropes and they hung off like a net off the side of the cliff. So the government blew up where they were standing, but they had jumped off and hung there.
Yeah, see, I imagine it as them having been blown like physically back, like pushed back off the cliff, and then as they were falling, he caught them. So they were hanging off the edge where they couldn't be seen by the ships. Apparently none of the ships that were there. It stretches, you know, my credibility a little bit. I can feel the bridge of disbelief. But, well, and also, you know, the frog can also climb, apparently. So, you know, that's something interesting. Maybe he had, like, a safety belt and they harnessed him or something.
No, man, no. Frogs can climb trees and stuff. Why wouldn't they be able to climb ropes? They've got sticky hands.
Okay, so he didn't even need he would have survived either way.
Yeah, he's a frog. He just would have hopped away.
Yokozuna! I keep wanting to call him Kokoro, but Kokoro is the ice fish mermaid.
You want to know what I think?
What do you think?
I think it's because Kokoro sounds kind of like croak.
Yeah, I think that might be it.
Sounds kind of like a frog. Looking ahead, because we're done with Enies Lobby now.
There is nothing left. They escaped off the island, and the buster. We even had a scene of the vice admirals being like, "Should we pursue?" And Aokiji showed up again because why not have him come back at the end of the arc as the circle of life type of thing?
He's our bookend.
Exactly. And he goes, "No, he looked pretty damn foolish. The Marines do. So I don't think we can salvage a victory from this.
Let's just call this one, boys." No, but looking ahead, they have completely embarrassed the world government to such a powerful extreme that the world government probably can't just like sweep this under the rug. So I'm curious to know, are they going to blame Water 7? Are they going to blame Rob Lucci? How is the government going to get out of this? And moving forward, are we going to see an increase in marine activity in the series? Are they going to become even tougher on pirates? Because we just kind of treated pirates like jokes, and then they came up and they blew up our special house.
Yeah, I really am not sure. I would guess, if I had no foreknowledge, I would assume that the next time something government happened, like the next time someone gets sent to Enies Lobby, I don't know if they rebuild Enies Lobby or if they have like a backup, but maybe they keep one of the 7 warlords there at all times. So in addition to dealing with the CP9 members, you would deal with, you know, someone of Crocodile's level, someone of Mihawk's level. Could you imagine trying to save Robin with Mihawk standing in the way? So it was like, I got this, bro, and then he gets cut. I don't got this, bro!
Oh,
no! So yeah, I would assume that increased Marine tactics, I assume that the Marines are going to start using even more underhanded tactics because, like, look at how bad these pirates are. And I assume that, you know, Spandam lied about why he called the Buster Call sort of thing. You know, he lied to save his own ass. So I think that he's also the type of person who would find a way to try to squirrel out of any kind of responsibility. So I think that involves blaming Luffy. I don't think that they could say Water 7 did it. Maybe they could say Galley Law specifically because they, you know, they were captured in the courthouse. But also they thought those people were dead. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't think that they're going to call another Buster Call because the first one messed them up so severely, but it wouldn't surprise me if they were going to do something like call a Buster Call on Water 7 just in case.
Yeah, I could see that, but this is also shown in battle where once a battle's lost, the, you know, bad guys have to back off a little bit. I could see them holding, you know, Galley Law and Water 7 under special consideration, you know, increase the military patrol. But they only acted that way because Luffy kind of inspired them to act, and, like, it was a very specific case with Nico Robin. So maybe they increased patrols for, like, you know, a year, but nothing happens at Water 7 because all the pirates are gone. and then they go, well, this was silly, and then they reallocate their forces somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think most of the brunt of this would be focused on Luffy, but if you wanted to make the Marines the scummiest of all scum, you could have Luffy as he's sailing away, you could see, like, an explosion in the background, you go, oh no. But I don't think that that's the sort of story that we're writing. The Marines have the trust of the world for the most part. It's only pirates who think that they're, jackasses.
Right, absolutely.
I mentioned Luffy sailing off of Water 7, so what's gonna happen? Like, there was a moment where maybe, theoretically, Mary could hold itself together because it had a will of its own, but Mary is definitely gone. They set her, not that thing, on fire. So what's gonna happen? Where are they gonna get their new ship?
I mean, they're going back to Water 7, so maybe Galley Law will give them a ship for just being cool guys.
You saved the world from the threat of Pluton, and for that, we will build you a ship. Do you think it's going to be another goat head? Do you think it's going to be another animal? Do you think it's going to be a robot? Like, does Luffy get input on this, or does he have too many weird ideas?
Luffy has too many weird ideas, and Nami punches him in the head. They do that bit. I think that maybe they make it, like, what's the natural evolution of a goat? Is it like a deer?
Bigger goat?
Like a goat with giant
Yeah, because I was about to say,
horns?
the sheep was more like a baby sheep. It didn't have the curly horns that, adult male goats have. So maybe that's what they're going to do. Or maybe like a saber-toothed goat? That would look ridiculous.
There's one type of, I can't remember if it's a sheep or a goat, but it has the horns that make like an X where it has two coming out of its head and then it has another two that come down, and it's like the devil goat is what it's commonly used as. That would be cool for a pirate ship.
Okay, I could see it. I could see it.
It might not be soft and silly enough for the Straw Hats, though.
Yeah. Well, and I'm trying to figure out, like, we've had some parallels between Luffy and Gold Roger, back with Dr. Kureha. I think she mentioned something about a guy named Roger that she met, and Crocus mentioned it on, Reverse Mountain, and you had a reference to it on Sky Island, where Gonfall was like, yeah, I met some pirates 20 years ago. Maybe he was that Gold Roger fellow. But we don't know enough about the Oro Jackson, the ship that Roger built, because I would say, what if they got, the next ship? Like, Tom built the ship for Roger, and now Frankie and Iceberg, the apprentices of Tom, are making the ship for Luffy, who, as far as we know, is going to be the second Pirate King. So it would make sense that the ship looked like the Oro Jackson. But you and we don't have any details, so I can't guess, like, oh yes, it'll have shark fins, or it'll be able to shoot a cannon, or a dragon head. Like, we don't know anything about this mythical figure.
Maybe, yeah, I mean, you're right there, but going back to your initial question, maybe Usopp will permanently leave the crew. Maybe his final gift to them will be a design for a new ship, and it'll be like the Soga King mask.
That would be pretty good. What about a ship with just boxing gloves on either side, and next to the steering wheel, is it still a steering wheel? Anyways, there's buttons that you could press, and they just, like, spring out, and they're big enough to just tear through other ships.
I love that. That's amazing.
And yeah, I think that's been your...
No.
Okay, no.
Haha, I have a secret for you. So on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, I posted, hey, we're about to record our Enies Lobby wrap-up episode. Does anybody have any thoughts to share with us? And then we didn't record it until now. So I have scrolled through my whole Twitter, and I've found that thread, and I just wanted to share people's thoughts and see if we have any thoughts about their thoughts.
Okay.
This is
Thoughts for your thoughts.
With Barry Marbles. So at Raptorian XD, our friend who we talked to about Toku, Sentai especially, but he says that Enies Lobby is his favorite arc. He loves Robin's development over the course of it. Frankie family is super cool. Frankie himself is awesome, and almost all of the individual fights rule. He also said that Luffy versus Blueno gets overlooked by a lot of people, but that it's a great showcase of Luffy learning.
Yes.
And I think, yeah, no, it absolutely is.
I love when you have the shonen character who couldn't defeat an opponent and then comes back and defeats them, and it shows how they've grown or whatever. But sometimes that comes across as they implement a specific strategy against that opponent, and sometimes it's just raw power, and with Luffy, we got that raw power. In the anime, I think part of this is filler, but, he hits Bluno in the back with Gum Gum's spear, and then he grabs onto Bluno's hair horns and missiles into him, and the attacks, they just keep coming in quick succession, and I really like that. His punches seem to be stronger, but for the most part, this upgrade is entirely speed, and for someone who is as monkey-like as Monkey D. Luffy, I think a speed upgrade is perfect for him.
Yeah, well, and it's cool just to watch him watching Bluno, and then all of a sudden he's in gear second and he's going. He's not watching anymore.
Exactly.
So I really liked that. I think that's probably my favorite fight of this arc.
Really?
Yeah, well, because Luffy and Lucci goes on for so long that by the end of it, you're like, they certainly are punching still.
Yeah, I would say that the emotional finish, though, of all of the flashbacks of Robin's, she will betray you, I'll hunt that woman down, how dare you burn down the flag, all of that compiled, it really emotionally felt like all of it came together.
That's true, yeah. I guess it depends whether you're going how did it make you feel in the context of the story versus was it a fun fight to watch?
Certainly, yeah. The Bluno Luffy was very breezy, and it was amazing.
Nami versus Khalifa was also pretty funny, just because Khalifa kept doing her you'll never know what my devil fruit power is.
And Nami
is
kept
this your
guessing.
devil fruit? You didn't guess it, you just got lucky.
Yeah, that was pretty good, and we also got to see more of Nami's fighting style. She doesn't get a fight every major arc. She didn't really have a one-on-one during Skypiea, for example. She held off Eneru, yes, but, she didn't fight one of the priests. And so it was good to see her, using her big Nami brain and her new climb attack and manipulating the weather and thinking through things. That was pretty interesting. I like it a lot. I already pointed this out earlier, but I also love Enies Lobby because literally every character gets an upgrade. In Alabasta, which is the last major arc in my opinion, Sanji defeated Mr. 2 with a kick. It was just a kick. And then Usopp and Chopper worked together for the first time, but, there wasn't really anything new about it. Maybe it was the debut of Hornpoint, but, they were already applying the stuff that they already knew. Versus in this one, you literally get new techniques that make Luffy, inflate his bones. He moves super fast. You have Nami with the lightning strike. She hadn't done that one before. And you had, all these other things.
Yeah, no, seeing everybody get their moment to shine and level up was really great. It makes me wonder, when's the next one gonna come?
Yeah.
How much stronger are the next set of enemies going to be now that they've had this growth? How do we challenge them further from here?
I actually was wondering about that. So I mentioned earlier, maybe they'll have a warlord, a Shichibukai, defend Enies Lobby in the future, one permanently positioned there. And that just got me thinking, how would you rate Lucci versus Crocodile? If they fought each other, would Crocodile take the win just because he has the sand powers?
No. I think that Lucci is smart enough to figure out the water weakness.
Okay.
I think he's smart enough to figure that out even before they really fight one another. At the same time, I don't know if that by itself can overcome Crocodile's sheer, fighting ability. I would probably rank them about equal. They're the same number of buggies.
Okay, because I'm trying to think of if Lucci uses his skywalk or his Soru shave, whatever it's called, his fast boy technique, is Crocodile's reflexes sharp enough to block those kinds of attacks? And
I was just going to say, I think yes, but also I think that's based on other knowledge that I have.
Oh, okay, sure.
Based on what we've seen from him, he never had to face anybody who moves as fast as Lucci.
He feels more like a tank to me. He takes the hits, and he doesn't even really take them. He lets them pass through, and then he counterattacks. I don't know how well Lucci's lightning kick would do with the Sobbles attack, where Crocodile creates those blades. Luffy was able to punch through them, but he had blood on his hands, so there's a lot of values that go into this.
The Sobbles attack, huh? I didn't realize this was a Pokemon episode.
Sables? Is that how it's pronounced? Okay. Jeez Louise. Making fun of my dyslexia on I'm not actually dyslexic and I don't mean any disrespect to people with the actual disability. Did we have any other thoughts on this thread?
Yes, we had 2 other friends who responded to us. One was at that welder guy.
Yes.
And he said that the arc made him a Robin stan for life, which, like, yeah.
Absolutely.
I stan Robin.
I don't always, like, sometimes I have to rewatch and listen to other people in order to kind of, like, change my opinion. So I think that I was sleeping on Robin for the longest time. And that phrase sounds weird because I'm a guy talking about a girl, but I
know what you mean.
I wasn't her fan. Like, I didn't dislike her, but I didn't really, like, pay attention to her. But with all of the positivity that Grant and that welder guy and a bunch of other people on Twitter have pointed out, and also you, and also Chris from Piece Together, she's a huge Robin fan. I've started to appreciate her more. There's another character coming up in probably about 300 episodes that I literally could not have described with a personality trait. I could not have said this character is X because I literally did not care about them. But the internet has shown me that this character has a wide fan base. So I hope that when we get there, people can patiently, not angrily, but patiently help me understand why I was wrong to kind of dismiss this character out of hand.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about being able to interact with the One Piece community at large is everybody has a different favorite character. It's kind of like Pokemon, where like no matter what the Pokemon is, somebody out there will say that it's their favorite. Somebody out there, Spandam is their favorite character.
Yeah, you follow Harper on Twitter, who she really likes Spandam and she really likes Blackbeard. So I'm just going to have to assume that she finds the most morally repulsive people and goes, I can fix them.
At Osan Collector.
Yeah, and Harper, if you're listening to this, please let me know if I mischaracterize you. I'm not trying to personally attack. I'm just saying I don't get it, but you do you.
Van Augur is also a favorite.
I mean, he's pretty cool. He's got the gun.
Somebody who I can't mention because they aren't in the show yet. But
tell me off mic who it is.
I'll tell you off mic who it is. That welder guy also said F spandex, and I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I assume they mean spandam. I think we can all agree, F spandam.
Yeah, I think that I would love for him to get crushed under the weight of an elephant a couple more times, and I'm really disappointed because I thought it implied that he was paralyzed for life after Robin broke his spine. I thought he was dead, but I don't believe either of those are true, and I just wish there was a little bit more permanence to the shonen battles. It feels like, you know who survived the Enies Lobby destruction? All of CP9. Would you like to, do you remember how they were able to do that, Catherine? Can you tell our readers?
I don't remember.
Okay. Bluno, with his door fruit, was right before the bombs went off. He opened doors and he pulled them into his pocket dimension. He saved the day. And I believe that it's speculated or confirmed, gosh, we should do some research on this show sometimes, but that the only reason he woke up from unconsciousness before everyone else was because he went out to fight Luffy before the actual fighting had started. So he had time to kind of like sleep off his concussion or whatever while all the other CP9 members were passed out.
Yeah.
So
no, oh man, that's so obvious, but also like so ridiculous.
Yeah, well, and it's so obvious in retrospect, but it's not something that necessarily every fan would think about. I never thought about that, but that is the cool thing about One Piece is if you think about the different characters and their abilities, you might be able to come up with like a what if Crocodile combined his sand powers with this person who used that power? Could they theoretically create this new combo attack? And, you know, I was like, wait 600 chapters.
Yeah. We do have one more final thought from one of our friends on Twitter. And I saved this one because I think it's kind of the most interesting note to end on. But at the Jin posted that Enies Lobby is a showcase of what makes Oda so good at world building. Yes. And that all of the elements of this arc come together perfectly. The backstory and the details about the Marines and how their judicial system works.
Usually when I see anime and there's two characters who maybe have their flashbacks happening simultaneously, it's because they're childhood friends or they're very similar in a specific way. Like, I don't know, they both want to be ninjas in the Naruto universe, right? They have some kind of a common goal. But the way that Frankie and Soga King and Robin and Usopp work off of each other, with Robin thinking of herself as a weapon and Frankie having learned a lesson about weapons, and Robin feeling alone and Frankie knowing about family, and Usopp having lost that connection. It's beautiful, and they're not childhood friends, and they're not really people who have the same background or the same goals at all, and it weaves together. It's amazing. Everyone gets their power-ups moments, and it emotionally feels like they needed it and that this was the right place for them to do it. It really is amazing. And the best bit of world building that Oda does, as far as I'm concerned, we will be covering in the next and final episode of the Water 7 Enies Lobby saga.
The wrap-up. Cool. Yeah. And that has been your
doot final thought. Outro goes here.
Smash that subscribe button.
And also, next episode, we will be reviewing everything that's left in the Water 7 arc. That is episodes 313 through 325. It's going to be an extra long viewing session, but I don't know if the episode itself will be extra long. There's a lot of filler, and I just want to get it all out of the way. So one final ride through Water 7. What mysterious plot awaits the Straw Hats? Who has murdered Nami? Who fights a giant lizard clown? These questions and more will be answered in the next episode of King of the What Now? Scuttlebutt I rumor is Sanji wouldn't rumor the Screw Hat crew unless the scuttlebutt was up his butt. Haha, what a great episode of King of the What Now, your One Piece podcast that started from the very beginning and stars these two doofuses. If you want to follow us on social media, Twitter is the best place to do that. I am at KOTWN_pod.
And I am at Pirate Ghost Host.
Absolutely, yes. We share all sorts of thoughts on there, some related to the podcast, some related to other things. But you can also reach us through email at kingofthewhatpod@gmail.com, or you can also find us on Patreon. We would love some subscribers or supporters, whatever the technical term is. Patrons. So fancy and grown up. And you can find that at patreon.com/kingofthewhatpod. You can find all sorts of things like bonus episodes, and you get to see the full cold open candidates, not just the ones that make it into the episode. Maybe someday if I learn to draw, I'll put stuff up there. We're always looking for suggestions and feedback. And speaking of which,
please take a moment to rate and review our podcast wherever you get us from. So iTunes, Spotify, Scrivener, that's for writing. But wherever you listen to our podcast, take a moment to leave a review. It helps other people find us. We are so grateful to all of our listeners, and we couldn't do this without you.
Absolutely. Word of mouth is super powerful, so if you have a friend who likes One Piece and they haven't heard of us, just direct them to the latest episode. And if they hate us, they can tell us why. And if there's an actionable item, we'll try to please you. That's how this works. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.